Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Bruce Frisco. It is Monday, the 9th day of March. This is CTV News. Tonight, for the third time in a week, fuel prices are set to rise in Nova Scotia. Seeking answers, figuring out how a toxic chemical spill stretched for kilometers on a busy highway. And a major milestone, marking 100 years since Johnny Miles put Sydney Mines on the marathon map.
Live from our Maritimes News Center, this is CTV News. Here is Bruce Frisco.
Good evening. The clock is once again ticking if you're hoping to save a little bit of money on gasoline in Nova Scotia. Gas stations in the Halifax area once again doing a brisk business this evening after word the province's interrupter clause is being invoked again, which would be the third time in the past week or so. The previous two increases totaled about 15 cents a litre more, and there is speculation online the price will jump another 9 cents when the clock strikes midnight. Diesel prices will not be impacted tonight, but we should note they increased almost 15 cents a litre over the weekend. The increases are global, of course, thanks to lower supplies because of the war in Iran. NB Power appearing before the energy regulator in that province today with its hands out. The utility wants approval to hike rates nearly 5% starting right away. CTV's Nick Moore tells us how that went.
NB Power wanted utility rates to increase in April instead of this summer. The Energy and Utilities Board has denied that application for an interim rate increase.
An interim rate order is an extraordinary remedy, and it is not intended to shield utilities from the known or reasonably foreseeable consequences of their own business decisions.
In a statement today, NB Power says it is disappointed with that decision. In January, the utility said any delay would significantly impact revenue and the corporation's ability to make critical investments or improve its financial health. The EUB decision kicked off the first day of hearings for a 4.75% rate increase in 2026-27.
There will be a future of rate increase requirements over an extended period of time.
NB Power was asked today how it's been monitoring 3 years of rate increases at 23% and the effect it's been having on customers being able to make ends meet. The utility says it's been tracking calls to its customer care center and the number of late repayment plans that have been started.
Those would be inputs that would help us inform and understand how our rate increases are impacting people's ability to pay.
NB Power management said several times during today's hearing that NB Power rates are some of the lowest in Canada, only behind Newfoundland and Labrador and Quebec.
Well, we acknowledge the relatively modest rates of NB Power, but at the same time point out that New Brunswick has the second lowest median family income on record, along with personal incomes.
The Human Development Council and the New Brunswick Coalition of Persons with Disabilities were two interveners at today's hearing. Both organizations are part of the Utilities Vulnerable Populations Committee, which was an EUB stipulation for NB Power getting its rate increase last year.
We need more people on here that actually live this every day. I'm sorry, it's sort of like having you explain to me affordability when your salary is not one that is ever really going to worry about affordability.
The hearings will continue tomorrow. Nick Moore, CTV News, St. John.
Halifax Water customers still unable to use the utility's online portal. You'll recall it was shut down on Friday after the system was hacked. Officials say the investigation is focused on figuring out what information may have been accessed and to what extent. Customers can still access services through other means, and billing has not been affected. The utility also says there is no indication financial information is at risk, but it is warning customers to ignore unsolicited calls, emails, or text messages claiming to be from Halifax Water. The incident comes less than a year after another cybersecurity breach impacted hundreds of thousands of Nova Scotia Power customers.
It is a concern to Nova Scotians, of course, when you hear about a privacy breach or a cyber event. So Halifax Water did reach out to the department, as I am aware that they've reached out to the appropriate authorities on Friday. So my team and myself were informed of the event on Friday.
There's between 200 and 500 new vulnerabilities discovered every single week. And most of the time, these organizations are only doing an audit once a year. So there'd be tens of thousands of new vulnerabilities discovered by the time they're ready to do their audit again.
Cybersecurity experts say public utilities can be vulnerable targets. As we told you last week, Halifax Mayor Andy Fillmore has said he expects council to ask the utility some tough questions about the incident when Halifax Water presents its annual plan in just a few weeks.
Get the Maritimes top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
Operating rooms at the VG Hospital will remain closed tomorrow while officials work to address the impacts of a recent power outage. The lights went out just before midnight Friday because of a problem with a backup generator. Some patients wound up being transferred to the Halifax Infirmary. At the time, the health authority said surgeries at the Victoria General were limited while backup generator power was being restored. The lights did come back on at 5:30 a.m. Officials say most outpatient care and treatments will proceed as usual tomorrow, but care teams will notify impacted patients. It was probably the busiest car wash in New Brunswick. Vehicles in Fredericton being hosed down if they drove through a yellow-orange irritant that covered a road after a chemical spill last week. CTV's Avery McRae tells us tonight a lot of questions still remain about this incident.
Lather, rinse, repeat. It's day 3 of cars being scrubbed clean of a yellowy orange chemical they may have driven through late last week.
It seems kind of strange that it's completely unknown as to what's happened, but that at least the city and the province are taking actions to at least do the cleanup.
On Wednesday, a chemical spill occurred along a near 14-kilometer stretch of highway in Fredericton with around 1,000 liters of the chemical spilled. The province says it was made aware of the situation Thursday, but didn't close the impacted stretch of highway until Friday afternoon. Initial tests of the substance found traces of sodium carbonate, sodium hydroxide, and chromium, which New Brunswick EMO says could be harmful. EMO remains at level 2, partial activation, with most remediation work appearing to have been completed, putting the main focus today on getting any vehicles that had driven through the irritant clean to avoid risk to themselves and the environment. Green Party leader and local MLA David Kuhn says it was quite a time lag getting the information to the public, which he says puts a spotlight on the entire chemical spill reporting system in the province.
It needs to be beefed up. The whole process is taking too long. You know, we don't see the kind of springing into action that people would expect when you find a curry-colored line spreading for kilometers along a major highway in New Brunswick.
The province has confirmed the spill has not impacted Fredericton's drinking water system and don't expect a problem with nearby wells. Avery McRae, CTV News, Fredericton.
Police in New Brunswick have now identified the woman whose body was found in a garbage bin in Moncton last month. She's been identified as 39-year-old Melissa Price. Last week, a homeless advocate who knew the victim urged RCMP to release more details about the investigation.
She was a good person. She didn't deserve this. And there are people out there who loved her and who cared about her.
Major Crime Unit has not revealed how Melissa Price died, but confirmed they are treating her death as a homicide and an isolated incident. After days of uncertainty around cuts to the provincial caregivers benefit, Nova Scotia's Minister of Long-Term Care today confirmed anyone who receives the $400 a month subsidy will not be impacted by budget cuts. Families have been protesting at the legislature and asking for the government to reconsider the 20% cut to the caregivers benefit grant. Today, though, Minister Barbara Adams confirmed the more than 3,000 people who rely on the money will not see reductions. Adams says the cuts will come from savings. The department says there are fewer people using the benefit thanks to the creation of more long-term care beds.
Well, there's been a lot of noise around the legislature in getting all of the messaging out. has been a bit of a challenge. So I'm really happy to have this opportunity to reassure all Nova Scotians who are getting the caregiver benefit that their benefits are not going to be impacted.
Last week, the province couldn't say what the impact of the caregivers' grant reductions would be. The monthly benefit was last increased about 7 years ago. Groups opposed to provincial government cuts preparing for another demonstration in Halifax tomorrow. We were interested to hear from people in rural Nova Scotia about those cuts. CTV's Jonathan McGuinness paid a visit to Berwick in the Annapolis Valley today.
Berwick is known as the apple capital of Nova Scotia. The town of just under 2,500 sits an hour or so outside of Halifax. And like most small towns,
here's your latte, my dear.
The local coffee shop is a busy place. Conversation often includes politics.
They talk about how the government spends their money, things that they don't like.
With a deficit well in excess of $1 billion, the Tim Houston government says it is focused on what it calls core services, like health and education. While not every cut will hit Berwick directly, many folks here feel chopping $130 million from programs is short-sighted.
I understand the need for austerity. I understand we don't want to run deficits, but these cuts seem very mean-spirited to me.
Janice Foote says she knew something was brewing when the province took away the tolls on the Halifax bridges and reduced the HST. The North Mountain Coffee Company serves up the daily brew and the buzz around the town. Not surprising, perhaps, talk of the budget is as hot as the coffee. Jonathan McInnes, CTV News, Berwick, Nova Scotia.
Thank you, John. Still to come tonight, Kaylin's full forecast, and we'll tell you how the Lebanese community around here is coping with their homeland increasingly targeted in the Middle East war. Coming up next, though, a royal rejection.
When there's real negativity about a certain royal, like now, then you see an uptick in public opinion.
New survey says most Canadians would like to see another major demotion for the former Prince Andrew. That's next. Stay with us. Health Day, you can add Canada to the growing list of member countries insisting that Andrew Mountbatten Windsor be removed from the royal line of succession. A new survey indicates there is a growing desire for Canada to cut ties altogether with the monarch. CTV's Ryan McDonald has the numbers.
It's a disgrace to his family and everybody. Yeah, definitely.
According to a new Angus Reid poll, more than 80% of Canadians surveyed support removing Andrew from the line of succession to the throne after his arrest last month and the fallout of his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Over the weekend, the Prime Minister added his voice to that chorus.
His actions, which are deplorable and have caused him to be stripped of his royal titles, certainly merit, if that's the word, necessitate, is a better word, his removal from the line of succession.
When there's real negativity about a certain royal, like now, then you see an uptick in public opinion.
This retired political scientist and author of a book about the royal family says people's feelings about the monarchy often change. He says there was an uptick in support following the king's visit to our country and speech from the throne less than a year ago.
Here's the king in Canada speaking to an international audience, and certainly speaking to you-know-who down in the White House, who admires the British monarchy. So again, this was Canadians loved this.
David Johnson adds it would take a constitutional amendment to abolish the monarchy in Canada, so he doesn't think they are going anywhere. Ryan McDonald, CTV News.
Thank you, Ryan. Time for a quick little break here, but when we come back, it is your complete maritime weather forecast. Gorgeous day around here today. Will it last? Kaylin Mitchell has the answer just a couple of minutes from now. We're in the last hour now of the 9th day of March, and what a 9th day of March it was today. It was so nice to see the sunshine and just see the water running.
Yeah, it was a very pleasant day across much of the Maritimes. The mix of sun and cloud, in some cases a few communities. It touched on a high temperature around the mid-teens. There should be a few more communities tomorrow as well that have some high temperatures right around the mid-teens. Now for tonight, we are seeing some fog develop for some areas. Patchy fog for most of the Maritimes, but fog more widespread, a little bit thicker around the Bay of Fundy coastline in New Brunswick and the Atlantic coastline of Nova Scotia. So those areas overnight first thing in the morning, maybe some reduced visibility. And while tomorrow is, in general, another fair weather March day, there are some changes coming up for the middle of the week, Wednesday into Thursday. That's when a slow-moving low-pressure system and a weather front is expected to make its way out of southern Ontario and into the St. Lawrence River Valley in Quebec and then towards the Maritimes. And when it arrives for our region, again, Wednesday into Thursday, it is expected to bring in an icy mix of weather, especially in New Brunswick and Prince Edward Island. Taking a look at our timeline then for cloud cover and precipitation for tonight into the start of the day for tomorrow. Just got to watch out for that fog, reducing visibility in the morning hours. It should be dissipating or retreating to parts of the coast as we make our way into the afternoon. Tuesday afternoon, for those areas not seeing fog, will be mostly sunny. There will be a low chance of the odd shower drifting through northern areas of New Brunswick, but that's about it. Now, winds for tonight and for tomorrow will be out of the southwest and mostly sustained between 10 and 20 kilometers per hour. Here's a look at the low temperatures in the forecast for tonight, and for most of the Maritimes, they'll be around the low to mid single digits. And then the high temperatures for Tuesday in the north of New Brunswick, a little bit cooler, right up around the north and in the northwest, there around 6-7 degrees. But as soon as you get away from that part of the province, the high temperatures come up between 10 and 14. And central and southern areas of New Brunswick for tomorrow with high temperatures in the low to mid-teens. For Prince Edward Island, high temperatures 10 to 13 degrees for Tuesday. In the east of Nova Scotia and Cape Breton, the high temperatures between 8 and 12. The north shore of Nova Scotia, high temperatures pretty close to the mid-teens. On the eastern shore, though, because of the onshore wind, mostly between 7 and 11. City centers, Halifax and Dartmouth for tomorrow, near 12, but moving inland up to around 15 degrees to get towards Fall River and Enfield. 13 for Truro, 10 for Amherst and Parsboro. The Annapolis Valley tomorrow could have high temperatures at 16 degrees. And then a little bit cooler on parts of the south shore of Nova Scotia between 9 and 12 because, again, that southwest wind is a little bit onshore. Now, back to the Wednesday-Thursday situation. We already have some special weather statements that have been issued for the province of New Brunswick. The north of New Brunswick could see 15 to 25 centimeters in snow and ice pellets, even with some freezing rain mixing in. The remainder of New Brunswick, again, Wednesday into Thursday, is at risk of 10 to 18 hours of freezing rain, creating a very slippery situation, potentially even the risk of some power outages. Additionally, parts of Prince Edward Island will be at risk of several hours of freezing rain, and there'll be a risk of some freezing rain Wednesday night for some northern and eastern areas of Nova Scotia. So that's that icy mix that I was talking about. So that is arriving Wednesday into Thursday for New Brunswick. By the time you get into the afternoon on Thursday for New Brunswick, most temperatures should be above the freezing mark, turning what's left of that system over to rain. Friday, a mix of sun and clouds. Snow possible on Saturday. Some more snow possible Sunday night, and a snow-rain mix possible next Monday. For Nova Scotia, in the outlook coming up Wednesday evening and night, it's a risk of some freezing rain in northern eastern parts of the province. Light rain and drizzle for most of the province on Thursday. There's a chance of flurries Friday morning, and then a snow-rain mix possible at the start of the weekend on Saturday. Cloudy period Sunday, rain possible on Monday of next week. And for Prince Edward Island, Wednesday into Thursday, there's that risk of some freezing rain. That's followed by a mix of sun and cloud. Chillier temperatures for Friday, a mix of snow and rain on Saturday. Back to a mix of sun and cloud Sunday. Rain possible at the start of next week. Bruce.
All right, thank you, my friend. We'll step aside for just a couple of minutes, but stay with us. Be right back.
#1 morning show in Halifax. Turk, Megan, and Amateur Alex. And home to the biggest artists. Halifax's #1 hit music station. 101.3 Virgin Radio.
10 days into the war now, and the ripple effects have reached far beyond Iran. Lebanon's health ministry says nearly 400 people have been killed in that country by Israeli strikes since the conflict began. As CTV's Vanessa Wright tells us tonight, Maritimers with ties to Lebanon are gripped with fear and worry for their homeland and their loved ones.
You know, it's very painful for us to see the destruction and the human loss. And, you know, it's like a deja vu for us.
The Halifax Council of Lebanon, Wadia Faris, says people in the Lebanese community are connected in more ways than one and doing their best to stay in touch with loved ones back home. But he says the community in Nova Scotia has support.
We are very strong. We support each other. We reach out to each other and making sure that we can help anyone needs some help, needs assistance.
Prime Minister Mark Carney offering his support for the beleaguered, saying in part, Canada is a longtime partner of Lebanon and stands in solidarity with its government and people, as Lebanon has unwillingly been drawn into the current conflict in the Middle East. In the meantime, Faris hopes the support is backed with action.
Well, definitely we call up on our federal government and our province government you know, to do whatever is possible to put the pressure that they can to stop, try to stop this war and offer the support to our country in Lebanon. We need it to stop. How it's going to be, that's going to happen, I honestly, I can't tell you.
Vanessa Wright, CTV News.
Thank you, Vanessa. Time for one final break tonight. Coming up, celebrating Johnny Miles, a century after he came out of nowhere to win the Boston Marathon. First, though, it's your wake-up weather. Here's a live look at Brookvale, PEI. Nice night for skiing, but not a lot of folks doing that right now. 6 degrees. Wake-up weather coming up next. So about 300 guests got together in Halifax Saturday evening for the 2026 Purple Day Gala in support of those living with epilepsy. There was food, an auction, and a private art show featuring works created by members of the epilepsy community. Music also featured in a performance from Quake Matthews, and CTV's Emma Convey emceed that event for us. Just like that, Tuesday morning, 10th day of March. It must be the time change, right? It's just everything is moving so fast now.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, hopefully this month just sort of speeds by because March could be a bit of a rough one when it comes to the weather.
Right.
Talked earlier about that icy mix coming in the middle part of this week. Tomorrow, though, it's just cool temperatures and some fog patches around the Maritimes. Morning temperatures mostly around the low to mid single digits. For Tuesday afternoon around the region, should be a fair amount of sunshine and a lot of high temperatures coming up towards the low to mid teens. So, Bruce, enjoy.
All right, thank you, sir. Well, this spring marks 100 years since Cape Breton's Johnny Miles made history and won the Boston Marathon. The CTV's Ryan McDonald shows us tonight a big crew of island runners are heading to the famous race to follow in his footsteps.
The third Monday in April will mark 100 years since this moment, when an unknown kid, to everyone but the people back home in Sydney Mines, of course, came out of nowhere to win the 1926 Boston Marathon.
It's been a goal of mine to get to this marathon because Johnny Miles is such a big deal around here.
This year, more than a dozen Cape Breton runners, including these four, will mark the centennial of Miles' historic win by heading to Boston and running the race.
I wanted to be able to go to Boston and wear a shirt that says, I'm following in the footsteps of Johnny Miles.
From the looks of things, he will. These shirts are being ordered for the Cape Breton runners to wear on the Boston course.
I mean, it is an amazing feat. Johnny Miles is one of our Nova Scotia's greatest athletes.
And much has been done in his hometown to preserve his memory. There's a highway sign, a larger-than-life statue, and annual races in Sydney Mines and in New Glasgow, where Miles lived later in life, that bear his name.
It's nearly on par with the Olympics, the Boston Marathon, and so well known. So for us to have someone that's been there 100 years ago, won it, then went to the Olympics in 1928.
For years, Bostonians have known Nova Scotia for their Christmas tree, and on April 20th, some of them might once again remember the province's marathoner who came to their city and became a champion. Ryan McDonald, CTV News, Louisbourg, Nova Scotia.
Thank you, Ryan. That's your late news tonight. CTVNewsAtlantic.ca if you'd like to take a closer look at something. I'm Bruce Frisco. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening. We hope to see you again tomorrow.